Hello, here we are again with another walkthrough of the tech tree for an assault ship. Today we're talking about the Yurei. So the Yurei is a new ship in Warzone. One of my favorite ships actually to fly. It's probably the ship with the highest skill cap in the game, most difficult to master, but once you've mastered it, it's fantastic. So the reason why it's difficult is because its armor is really paper thin. Um, can't take much damage before it just blows up. So the trick with the Yuri is to avoid getting shot, and that's what we're going to talk about in going through the tech tree here. So let's have a look at the modifications that are available for the Yuri. Okay, so the Yuri for me is a great dogfighting ship, but I the style of play that I have, which is pretty aggressive, pretty confrontational, I don't usually take the Yuri out for that. I will usually opt for the Wraith in that case because it's got a lot more head-on dogfighting capability. But the beauty of the Yuri is that it's super fast and it is really maneuverable. You can skid it around corners, you can really spin it around people, you can stay behind your target quite a lot if you want to. So a lot of the upgrades that I've chosen are meant to kind of complement that style of play. And also, the Yuri is hands down the best ship to be flying in an extraction mode because you can just outrun anything, including missiles. So if you keep your capacitor full and you keep your positioning smart in the game, you can really dominate an extraction match. So let's go through the upgrades and we'll see what is going to work best. So one of the things that has become really confusing in these tech trees is that they've got a lot of spelling errors or mismatched descriptions. So I know that if they'd had another chance to patch this game before the developers moved on to other things, they probably would have fixed some of this stuff. But one of the big bugs in this tech tree is that the description here for this flare upgrade is completely wrong. It says extended flare, which in other situations would mean that the flare would last longer, but you'd have to wait longer for it to recharge. Well, that doesn't seem to be the case here. So if you look at the stats for extended flare, it says 15% ECM cooldown, minus 10% duration. So to me, that means that it takes your flares will go off for a shorter period of time, which is kind of the opposite of extended flare. But in exchange for that, the cooldown is shorter, so that you don't have to wait as long between uses of it. So this is actually mixed up with rapid flare, which I think this should be called rapid flare. I think this should be called extended flare. But in any case, this is what I want. I want to be able to use my flares more often, and I don't care if they don't last as long. So the last 10% less, not a big deal. Being able to use them 15% more often, that's a big deal. So just like on the Wraith, I want that to happen. I want to be able to use them more often, and I don't care if they don't last as long. Because usually you've got all your missiles coming at you at once. They've all been fired from the same ship usually. So yeah, you might as well be able to use that more often, and it doesn't matter if they don't last as long. So that's the one that I choose. It says extended flare. It means rapid flare. Just go with that. So the next one is superior shields. That means more shields and less armor. 20% less armor, which is significant. If you're really good at not getting shot, this might be the option for you. But already on the Yuri, the armor is super weak. So just like on the Wraith, I always choose more armor over shields because shields can come back. You just have to get away from your enemy, and that's what the Yuri is excellent at doing, running away. So once you can run away, then you can build your shields back up, then you can come in for another attack, and hopefully your armor is still intact at that point. So I do not choose this one. Okay, so rapid flare again, like this is a mix-up I believe, with the labels. You get more duration of your ECM, but it takes longer for it to cool down, so you don't get to use it as often. That's not what I'd want to do. Rejuvenate. Okay, so this is what I use. It doesn't say that here, but this applies to shields. So your shields will recharge 7% faster. So that's really handy, combined with not choosing the option that weakens your shield, or weakens your armor. So your armor stays normal. You don't get any kind of bonus for this, but your shields will come back faster, and that's a pretty good bonus, and that's the one that I have. Robust plating. So there's a trade-off here. You get more armor, but you get less shields. Again, because the defense on this ship is so weak, I would just choose this previous upgrade, the Rejuvenate, which doesn't have a negative to it. They don't take anything away. They just give you 7% recharge rate. I prefer that over giving up shields for more armor. Okay. Then back down to here. So these missile ones are interesting because the Yurei's missiles are the best in the game, really. They're much better than the Wraiths because they track really fast. They can turn like 90 degrees instantly. They follow your targets for a long time, and they do a lot of damage when they hit. So there are 3 different missile upgrades on the Yurei. I like this. Actually, I don't like this one. It reloads your missiles faster, but each missile does a little bit less damage. It's actually a pretty good one. I did use this for a while. What it's good for is it really keeps your enemy on their toes because you're pretty much continuously launching missiles at them. You have a higher missile reload speed. There's almost no break between your ability to fire missiles. You don't have to wait for them to reload so long, so you can constantly be launching them. And it's more of a harassment type tool because when they hit, they don't do as much damage, but it's really aggravating to your enemy. So if you can get that little psychological advantage, sometimes it's not a bad thing to have. Just firing missiles keeps their alarms going off all the time, keeps them firing off their ECM. So yeah, I do like it. I don't use it right now, but I could switch back to that. Depends who I'm fighting. Augmented ignition. So this is one of the different speed upgrades. So this one gives you higher acceleration but lower max speed. So I would say this is only useful in circle fighting applications. If you want to really boost to get behind your enemy, then this might be the thing that you use. So if you use your Yurei mainly in dogfights, this is probably a good choice for you. If you want to use this in extraction, for example, where you're mainly running away from your opponents, it's probably not the best because losing 10% of your maximum speed is a penalty. Okay, so this one, engine power, 10% maximum speed bonus, and at the cost of acceleration. So you accelerate 20% slower. That's a pretty big penalty, but the 10% max speed puts you way above anybody else in terms of speed. As long as you don't let off the throttle, you keep the pedal to the metal, you're going to just burn away from anybody, including other Yureis that are not upgraded. So for extraction, this is enormously useful. If you're traveling long distances in a straight line, this is what you want to do. So this is the missile upgrade that I use on the Yurei. It's the Destructive Warhead. So that gives you a 7% secondary weapon damage boost. That means your weapons, your missiles, do 7% more damage. So I think that the Yurei's missiles already reload fairly quickly, and having that little bit of an extra damage boost is a nice little bonus because it doesn't take away anything. There's no penalty to having this upgrade. So right now I'm using that. It's a nice sweet middle ground between reload speed and damage. So that's my current choice. Okay, so Burst Flare. This is, again, similar to the Wraith. It gives you 10% ECM range, meaning those flares will shoot out 10% further from your ship than they would normally. This is really kind of a useless upgrade. I don't know why anyone would choose this. 10% is really negligible when you're talking about the amount of time it takes for a missile to travel and how far those flares go. Like 10% is nothing. So I would just avoid this one. And engine expertise, so 10% bonus on cruising speed. So this is your speed when you are not boosting. I don't feel like this is that useful. If you run out of boost, you're already in trouble. Another 10% is not going to help you. So typically when you're actually doing something in a Yurei, you're using your boost quite actively. So the 10% cruising speed, I don't think that really makes much of a difference. So I would avoid that one. And then finally, enhanced warhead. So this is interesting. It gives you 15% damage bonus per missile, but at the cost of your reload speed. So 20% hit on missile reload speed. That's pretty significant. You're going to notice that. If you're really good at using missiles and you know that you're going to hit when you use them most of the time, this is a nice upgrade for you because 15% damage upgrade it's a pretty big boost. But you know, if you miss, you're gonna have to wait quite a bit longer before you can use them again. So you know, if you want to be safe, if you're fighting really good opponents who are good at evading missiles, I would stick with that middle ground one that I've chosen over here, destructive warhead. But you know, if you're really good with missiles, then this may be the one for you. So yeah, those are the upgrades for the Yurei. I hope that's cleared up this tree a little bit for you. If you got any questions, head over to the Discord. We'd love to help you out with it.